They're hot, man.
It'll put you. The couple that we are recording, but the couple that I've smoked, and of course I smoke a lot, but I'll accidentally inhale sometimes because I'll be working and then all of a sudden I feel hungover. Yeah. Like, okay, it's time to put this cigar down.
Is there a trick to fighting the breath you get after?
Yeah,
Dude, that's the thing.
You got a skill. You got to get a skill. Skill with smoking cigars. It's just smoke them.
Because I can't handle the bad breath I get afterwards.
You got to brush your teeth every once in a while. That helps. And then chew gum.
That and showering and stuff.
That's those tricks Mickey tells me all about.
Maybe just have a little vodka after. Right,
there you go.
Maybe that'll drown the bad breath.
It will. Hey, this is Mike. Welcome to the Wandering Minds podcast.
This is Mickey, and today we have Trevor.
Trevor is back. What's up?
Back. What's up, Mike? What's up? Had a blast first time. Thank you for having me on again.
Absolutely, man. So today you were in the gym and you were doing were those RDLs or were those just quick
sumo?
Sets? Just sumo.
3x6 RP. Oh, it's supposed to be RP6 at
500 pounds.
500.
He's doing 500 pounds. Sets of 6 at 500 pounds.
Jeez. I wanted to. I did a 1 rep max earlier in the week today, kind of a technique thing, and I never usually do like deadlift work in the later week. But me and Vic, who were working on some timing things, let me do some RP6, but I kind of wanted to push it a little bit. So I was hoping it would feel like RP6, RP7, and it did, luckily. So that's what we wanted. What we really wanted was to be able to get into the heavier weights with nationals coming up and stuff like that. So it's good.
So you're competing February, right? Just to qualify?
No. Okay. So I think he's gonna let me push it a little bit.
I was gonna say because last time you were like one lift
thing.
on each thing.
And the best lifter award, right?
Yeah. Molly was so mad. Yeah. She was so mad because she's been lifting for like 5 years and she hasn't gotten a best lifter.
Oh man,
it's like
someday
blame your husband, not me.
The same coach, but whatever.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah.
So how are those shoes working for you? Have you
the Valor ones?
You gonna wait to do your own reveal and stuff like that?
I am gonna do something, but I'll let people know. The Valor, I have 2 notorious shoe brands, and I have one of they have 3 different types of soles, and I have the same sole. They're called the Gen 2 soles that Valor also has. By the way, Valor is a buddy of mine's company that is doing powerlifting gear and stuff like that for anybody who doesn't know.
Nice.
And his shoes fit me better. I didn't like the Notorious. I love Notorious, but I didn't like how their Gen 2 soles fit me, which are the same type of sole as his on the same size. So I actually gave him away to a friend.
Okay.
And I was worried his wouldn't fit me as well, the same because they're the same size, same sole, but his fit me perfectly. So, and I mean, they work great. I don't have any complaints about them at all. It's hard to tell when you're lifting that much weight, like how your foot really feels. You'll notice if something rolls too easily or something like that. But for the most part, I can't tell a difference between that and Notorious besides the fact that they do fit my foot better. So that's the main thing that is actually super important with these shoes is how do they fit your foot and how do they let your feet expand and stuff like that. Yeah. So I like them.
So are those similar to what Austin just got?
His purple ones? Yeah, his are Notorious.
Okay.
And I think he does have the same sole as mine.
Okay.
Notorious has a mid 2.5 sole too, which I have a shoe of, which I really like. That shoe's amazing. But these are a little different sole. So they're a different version.
So are you going to wear those in competition? Okay.
Yeah, I'll wear my 2.5s are a little small, and he was kind enough to kind of let me push the brand out a little bit with the shoe. So cool. I'm going to use those for sure in comp.
Nice. I was questioning on getting those, but I don't know. I wanted to wait to see what you thought first.
You pull
I wear sumo? The Rider wear. No, I'm back to doing conventional.
Yeah.
You are?
Yeah. That's what I've been pulling for like 2 months now.
Well, I don't train with you anymore.
Yeah.
Why did you quit sumo?
Because maybe it's been a month because I got that strain in my leg.
Yeah.
So, and ever since then, we've since fixed it, and I don't have that anymore. But during that time, I went back to conventional because sumo was just killing that right there.
Yeah. I had some too. Like I had to get to a point my adductors were so tight where I would have a lot of pain right here, and I would have to stretch it until it would pop, and it'd loosen up, and now it's good. But I was in the same boat. I'd sumo and I'd lock my knees, and I would just get this super sharp pain.
Yeah.
So I was just not mobile in my adductors. And they're just, compared to everything else, they were just weak.
Yeah.
But I think you are more of a conventional anyways.
Yeah.
It seems a little bit more natural for you.
It is. It feels better. It feels stronger again. Yeah. Sumo was getting strong, and then all of a sudden this happened, and we're like, okay, well, I'm going to go back to conventional, and now it's just going up there. Nothing, nowhere near your numbers. But you were saying about the shoes. What do you think?
I mean, conventional, I'm not.
Does it matter?
For sumo, you definitely need a shoe that has like some grip to the pressure of the outside.
Yeah, and that makes sense.
You could use whatever shoes you want for conventional, in my opinion.
Yeah,
you're not pressing out or anything like that. You know, I only use those shoes for deadlifting. I squat in lifters, and then I bench in like Jordans. So you know, I
wear my rider wear, which I like.
Yeah, I have a rider wear pair of shoes too. Like them a lot too.
Yep, those seem to be fine for me.
Yep. For conventional, there's nothing wrong with those.
Yeah.
You know, they don't have any stability side to side as much, but you don't need that for conventional.
That's true. What about you, Mick? Any particular shoes you like to wear?
Yeah.
While we're on this subject?
I like what are they? Reebok LTRTR010s or something. My high tops I wear.
Oh yeah, okay. I like those shoes actually. They don't make them anymore. Molly had a pair of those a long time ago, and I wanted to get a pair, and I couldn't find them. I really like those shoes. I think they look cool. They had a lot of cool designs.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
she's got a lot of colors.
I have a lot of them because, and I like get them from eBay.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. And most of them are new, actually.
Dude, eBay's still a thing.
I know. I
haven't
totally
eBay shopped in forever.
It totally is, and because I saw Juji Mufu wearing them.
That guy's crazy.
Yeah, he is. I'm like, what are those shoes he's wearing? Because they were wider than Chuck's,
right?
And I saw that he was like doing like heavy lifts in them, right? And like I was able to like zoom in on a shoe and figured out what they were, and then found them used because they don't make them anymore,
right?
And so whenever I find them in my size, if I don't already have them, I buy them.
Nice. They're great shoes. They're better than Chuck's.
Yeah, they're wider.
They let your toes get out there.
Yeah, and these are Reeboks also, so they also have more of a lip on the side.
They do.
More than the Chucks.
Yeah.
And they're wider, and I think that actually wearing Chucks I got a bunion.
You might.
Because the toe shape, right, and with lifting heavy and just the way my feet are or whatever. And I haven't had a problem with the TR010s or whatever they are.
Some name.
Yeah, because they initially marketed them to CrossFitters.
Yeah.
But they're not CrossFit shoes. Like, these are CrossFit shoes.
They're just solid shoes that you can... They're flat-soled shoes. I used to wear Molly's pair that she had a little bit because I liked them and I didn't know what shoes to wear. So.
Have you ever trained without shoes?
I do, actually. I don't do any of my main lifts, like my maxes.
Yeah.
Just because I have lifters, I don't have the best ankle mobility. But if I do, a lot of times if I have heels up, I'll do barefoot.
Okay.
Or if I deadlift, I don't really because of just the pressure.
Yeah.
But I do recommend it. Like if you're not powerlifting maxing and you can get away with most of your lifts barefoot that require your feet to ground into the floor to use up into your glutes, I highly recommend it.
Okay.
It just helps with, most people's toes get crammed.
Yeah.
And you lose a lot of stability and balance there. And believe it or not, you get a lot more pressure from and strength from being able to ground properly.
Yeah.
So those shoes that are wider, like Chucks are so narrow and for a lot of people, and Nikes are too. They're horrible at this, and they give you an arch. And everyone's like, "Oh, I like the arch support," but believe it or not, then you're not letting your own arch stay strong.
Yeah.
So you start to rely on that arch a little bit, and that is bad for, at least from what I've heard and read. You want to be able to, even if you have flat feet, you don't want to necessarily rely on like an overly high arch shoe.
Gotcha.
So
well, and it would seem to me like in I like what you said about training barefoot up until like your maxes and stuff like that, because if you can't compete in competition barefoot, why would you train barefoot?
Yeah,
to a certain degree.
Yeah, I mean, squatting is one thing. If you don't need lifters, I think maxing in barefoot's great.
Okay.
Right? If they would let you do it in comps barefoot, I think you'd do it. So if you don't use lifters, and for anyone who doesn't know, lifters are elevated heeled shoes that help a lot of like the way you track your hips into the and sit and position like that. But if you don't use those, I would probably always squat barefoot and a little bit put my shoes on just so I'm used to them.
Yeah.
But Squat University just came out with a new shoe, and the toe in it is super wide that it just lets your toes, because you really want to get used to that.
The lifters.
Yes.
They came out with the new lifters. Yeah.
Yeah.
They sold out super fast. And then I think are they releasing them again in January?
I don't know. I'm sure they are.
I think that's what I saw.
Yeah.
Now, is that the brand Squat University? What
Squat University is on Instagram. I don't know I don't know the brand specifically of his shoe. I'm sure it's.
I don't know what it is either.
I'm sure it's Squat University's shoe. I don't know his logo on it or anything, but he's the creator or co-creator of the shoe.
I've seen the. Yeah,
he's the one that book you got from Cash, Rebuilding Milo.
Yeah.
That's
I've seen that book. How was it?
I haven't gotten through it yet.
Yeah.
I need to get it on Audible.
Yeah. I like Squat University. I send him Vic stuff, and sometimes Vic hates some of his stuff, and I have to check because sometimes me and Vic will bounce ideas off of stuff a lot, and Vic will explain some of, I'll ask him what do you think of this, because I'm like, ooh, I don't know if I like this or agree with this. Vic's just a little bit more experienced with biomechanics than I am, so I'll ask Vic, and he'll kind of give me his explanation, or if it's shit, he'll be like, that's shit. Right. So, but like everybody you follow, not everybody's gonna say things that you agree with.
Yeah.
So.
Right.
Well, and also it's not going to match every person specifically. Anyways.
No, never. It's usually the fundamentals. You can apply the fundamentals of proper form and lifting to every lifter. Yeah. They will look different though.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. That's true. So let's switch gears into some more meaty topics. What type of stuff do you want to talk about, Trevor?
Well, I like talking with people that like talking. Well, we had kind of mentioned something about, maybe talking about masculinity and kind of what that looks like in today's world. And
let's delve into that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that, especially since Mickey's here. This is a good thing for Mickey to be in, because I think that masculinity and feminism are part and parcel. You know what I mean? They're and I always said equal but opposite, but I don't necessarily mean,
I like that.
I don't necessarily mean opposite in a negative way. I always mean it in a positive way.
Right.
Like complementary.
That's the word. She always says the right word, and that's what I mean. Yeah. It's complementary. I think that with this weird era that we're in, and I'm very, very, I would almost bet everything on it that the reason the world kind of is what the world is today is because of lack of testosterone. I think there's too much estrogen in things, and I think it's confusing so many people from such a young age, and that's why there's so much confusion on, am I masculine or am I feminine? Feminine?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah, the whole range, spectrum that we have going on right now of confusion. Talk to me about your idea of masculinity and femininity.
Well, I think when it comes to a lack of testosterone, I like the whole same but not same thing when it comes to feminine. What it is they are exactly, feminism is when a woman is striving the best to do her purpose as a woman. That's feminism, right? Mm-hmm. And invertly, a woman knows the things she needs to do to be more womanly, to be a good provider, nurture her. Would you kind of agree? When you are on purpose for your purpose, for example, a man's purpose, masculinity comes when a man is kind of doing his purpose. Masculinity follows that to an extent that helps you kind of define what it is. And when you say low testosterone, I think a part of that is because when we are left to our own devices, masculinity and feminism can look like anything.
Yep.
And I'm gonna bring God into this because that's kind of where I find
absolutely.
The more you can look at the way, if you put God first in your life, masculinity follows that to a T. Mm-hmm. If you follow the way he was in the Bible, Jesus was in the Bible, the way his actions, and just bringing him closer, what that does is that eliminates options of what the world might have, what people might think, all these different sexes and ideas, those get eliminated because you have a plan. And a lot of people don't like having structure when it comes to what's right and wrong.
Yeah.
And so masculinity, there is a right and wrong when it comes to masculinity and feminism. Mm-hmm. And feminism has, like Mickey was saying, they complement each other. One is not lower or greater than the other one. But when a woman is like a spiritual provider for a man, and a man is working and doing what he is called to in masculinity, that's kind of where those two work best together.
Yeah.
Is understanding they're equal, but they're completely opposite, right?
Yeah.
Like in the same way, but they're the same in that, like if a woman is chasing feminism from a pure way, it kind of falls in line. I feel like it's in our genes. Would you say not? Like when you're a man, if you're being true to yourself,
yeah,
you know, kind of like what a man, like do the right thing.
Yeah.
It's simple. Like just do what you know to do.
Yeah.
And it's the same for women. Just do what you know to do. Do you feel when you're married or in your relationship as a woman to think about how and what my man needs in areas, and then as a man, like what does my woman need in these areas? You think the same thoughts, but they end up being different actions.
Yeah.
And so masculinity and feminism, I think when you think of it in a simple terms, that's just what it is. It's pretty simple. It's when we don't keep God first and we start placing our own desires, our own insecurities in there of what masculine and feminism is. Then it gets complicated. Then it gets dirty. Then it gets muddy. Yeah. And we lose the clearness of what each thing is.
Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, to say exactly what masculinity is, I mean...
Well, I know what society thinks it is. Society would think it's toxic.
Yeah, toxic.
Just being a man is toxic these days.
Yeah, and it's exaggerated. It's like men can't cry, men can't do this, or men, you know, toxic is toxic masculinity, I would like to say, is an exaggeration of masculinity. Yeah. Aspects of masculinity that are exaggerated. Yeah. That's toxic masculinity. Same thing with feminism. Mm-hmm. Toxic feminism is anything that's exaggerated about feminism, because then you eliminate the need for the other sex. Yeah. Right? And or it's numbing the men. Like suicide rate for men is way higher.
Skyrocket. Yeah.
And so, you know, I think at the end of the day, you know, if a man's doing what he knows to do as a man and actually doing it, because I do believe we know what to do. Yeah. It's when you get lost.
Yeah.
Then
I think it's a natural instinct. And it's funny because we had this conversation on our drive here about Dave Chappelle, how he jokingly but realistically said that only women and dogs are loved unconditionally. Mm-hmm. Men are always with condition. Men are loved with condition. They have to make money. They have to they have to provide. They have to be handsome. They have to, you know, the list goes on, whatever. Would you think that that's true in society? Do you think it's true in society? From a female perspective, the way you see society, I don't necessarily mean you.
Because I was like, wait, that doesn't seem fair.
Yeah. Do you think that women are attracted to men first and foremost based on what they can provide them?
Now, yeah, especially in our culture.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree with that.
That's a sad place to be.
Well, and it's because people are preaching this love means self-power. Whether or not you're a man or a woman. Yeah. So like, I don't need you. That's the mindset. I'm myself. I've been so sad and broken. Like if I think I need a man, like then I'm weak. And that's just not true. It's all manipulation in that sense, right? Like a man, you don't need a woman, and a woman doesn't need a man. They're blessings if you find someone that matches that with you. Because it says in the Bible, like if you can't keep your flesh clean, marry. But at the same time, like it's okay to be single. Yeah. So, you know, going back to what you were asking Mickey is when you have the world saying all these things, it's because the world doesn't do anything that aligns with God. Like they don't want anything to do with like actual structure. They want it to be whatever because they can manipulate it. They can control the narrative that way. Yeah. And masculinity, if you control masculinity, you control a nation. Yeah. You control the world.
And that's what they're doing in this country. Especially, I mean, every other country looks at us like, what the fuck is going on in America right now? Think about, they're destroying masculinity. They're destroying the family dynamic, and they're creating this mess here. Yeah. And like I used it, the Sodom and Gomorrah, you know, everything that's going on is biblical. It's friggin' 100%. Written in Revelations, right? Throughout the Bible, what's going to happen and what's happening. And I think that's a scary place to be, because I don't think, and again, I'm not religious. I'm very spiritual, but I believe in God. I believe in Yahweh. I believe in, you know what I mean? I believe in these things. I don't go to church. I've read the Bible a couple times. I understand the Bible, but I think that part of the problem with society today is that part that says fear God, right? And we talked about this where it's fear the consequences of your choices.
Yeah. Fear God means like I'm nothing without you.
Yeah.
And that's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
And like when you realize like I can't walk into my purpose, feminine or masculine, without God being at the center, then that's scary. Because I want to give back to people. I want to love on people, and I want to be able to be the best person to everybody that I can while staying in my own boundaries. But I cannot do that if I do not have God at the center and fearing that. And that takes just a little bit of growing up. Like you can't, if you're always focusing on the self, that's why I have a hard time with today's world, and the fact of true masculinity and feminism requires you to die to that self and put God in that position. And once you do that, you get a different type of peace, and you're able, because especially with men, our feelings are different than women in how we react to anger and close off how that, and that's so key. There's righteous anger and there's normal anger. Righteous anger is okay. Normal anger is not okay. And one of the only ways I do believe you can combat that in masculinity is through God. Otherwise, you're left to your own devices, and we lose every time. That.
So define righteous anger and normal anger. What's
righteous anger, a good example is that when Jesus flipped the tables at the priests, right? Okay. Yeah. He was so angry at the manipulation and the corruption that he was mad. Normal anger is selfish anger. So it's like when we're letting our emotions get the better of us in a different way. If that makes sense. I don't know if that's a good example.
I think you're making a good distinction.
Yeah. So that's kind of the distinction, with righteous anger and normal anger. And the more you try to be aware of it, that's the other thing is like, I was talking to someone the other day about the small voices we have in our head. And those voices either get louder or smaller depending on what we feed. Yeah. So if you're mad a lot, that little voice that's trying to keep you healthy gets quieter and quieter and quieter. And if you are trying to take every thought captive before you let it, because you can't do much about thoughts that just come into your mind sometimes, unless you practice over time with your actions. Yeah. But how does it invoke? What does it invoke inside of us? Do you let it invoke a spirit of anger or a spirit of I'm not going there, I'm going to fight it, I might need some peace time, I got to chill out. Yeah. How does that, right? And then that little voice has an opportunity to get louder and louder, and you get stronger and stronger in that area. And that is huge with masculinity, true masculinity. Yeah. True feminism is, and in my opinion, you can't get that voice louder if you only have the self there. You got to have God there. You can't have just what I want there. Yeah. Right? Because what we want is not fulfilling. Yeah. Truly.
So, and God would represent the striving for the best version
100%. Of self. 100%. It's like the picture of like, I want this house. And God's like, no. If you just listen to me, I have this mansion waiting for you. It's the same thing with your character. Yeah. It's the same thing.
Do you think looking at our society today, and we're still obviously heavily on masculinity and feminism, but do you think society today, American society today, what saves us? What saves us from ourselves?
Do you think that the ball?
Well, yeah. Other than that, that's it.
Here's the thing,
that's kind of it. Do you think that the ball is too perpetual in motion right now?
Never. It's intended.
Oh, yeah. And I agree with that. Yeah.
Like the evil has to be shown for the light to be shown. Yeah. Like you can't shine glory if there's nothing to shine glory on. Otherwise, then it's an automatic belief. Like it's like, oh wow, that was easy. You know what I mean? Yeah. But pain, at the beginning when Adam and Eve did what they did. It has been snowballing since. History repeats itself, right? So who knows if this really is the end times, right? Like if this really is part of, the, forgot the term you said earlier.
Apocalypse.
Post or pre-apocalypse. Yeah. It could still be 500 years down the road. Yeah. But things take time. I do think there are signs that like, it's darker than it's ever been. Yeah. Right? I mean, castrating kids and stuff is no joke.
Right. That's dark. And if you think about some of the biblical terms that have been some of the direct biblical things, the Euphrates drying up. Right. You got the third temple's being built. If anybody knows
cattle, there's cattle situated like the red cows.
Yeah. If people are biblical, understand their Bible, then they would know that those are
signs
of the time. So
yeah, I think what saves us is just better find Jesus.
Yeah,
I'm serious. That's what I think saves us, because there is no self-savior. There's an antichrist that shows up.
Yeah.
But there is no, and the only reason why I believe this is because like I've had situations in my life where I should have died and multiple times, and I've, and I have my own walk with God. But if you really want the answer from what I believe, it is find salvation in Jesus for sure. And because he's the way, the truth, and light. And that's just the way it is in my belief. And the clarity people get when you believe that way, it's a renewal of the mind. Yeah. And if you do not have that renewal of the mind, nothing is off limits. You can act, do whatever. I told my aunt this several years ago on it's still on masculinity, but she said, I think if you don't know Jesus, people do a great job at trying to love the best they can. Like you have the self at the idol as your idol, and you're loving the best you can the way you know how. And that is so draining. I don't know how people do it, but they try really hard. There's a lot of people out there that really, really try hard to do it, but they're always drained. Yeah. And that's not like that with Jesus. So it's not something you have to earn, right? But when you have the self there, it's always earn. I'm working. It's not works, right? And so there's a huge distinction between, all the other people say, well, I believe this, and that's fine. But like, that's all earned. You have to earn that. Yeah. Yeah. You don't earn anything with Jesus. It's free. It's given. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Sorry, I'm getting into preachy. But masculinity, going back on this, masculinity mimics that, and that like is what brings masculinity.
Well, and so along with masculinity and feminism, it seems to me like, you look at men, you look at people today, and you got people that are like, okay, I'm an alpha, I'm this, I'm that. Yeah. Which is fine. But at some point, those leaders, I'll call them leaders, not just alphas, but the leaders can't always just stay in their own lane. Mm-hmm. At some point, society-wise, especially with, when things start affecting children, silent spectators, to me, aren't alphas. No. You can't be an alpha and be a... Right, yeah, right. Yeah. But I think that's a problem. I think that's a problem in society, because too many people right now are staying in their own lane, just ignoring, and now look where we're at. Yeah. Yeah. When you're a man and you're in those shoes, or woman, and you have a big role. I mean, Kanye was just talking about it recently. And when he was in all these deals, he was told not to say anything. And I think if you don't have a walk with God, that's easy. You're not convicted, and you might be, but it's easy to just say, to more so, it's none of my business.
It's none of my business. Yeah. And so it's rare to find. It's just so rare. Masculinity, feminism, like that's why like I've been single for so long too. We talked about this. Yeah. Is I don't care about being single, but man, I do treasure like a woman that really respects her own feminism, her gifts. That's so amazing. I mean, it's such a treasure to see when a woman is doing that. Yeah. And a man's truly acting masculine. And that doesn't mean like we look for perfection, but you just decide which things you're going to deal with some people, and some aren't okay to deal with, and other things are, you know, like that's really what it comes down to, right? Like not red flags, but which flags are you like, oh, I can my love languages can work better with this, then this is just something I can't really, that's not for me. Yeah. Right. Teach their own on that. Yeah.
It's interesting that you brought up love languages, because I was watching, I don't know if it was YouTube or TikTok or something, but it was very interesting because a lot of men claim that their love language is physical touch, right? Mm-hmm. And I would say that mine is too. I'm very much a physical touch type of person. And I give hugs, I give fist bumps.
First time I met you, I think it was like...
yeah, right? So obviously my love language is physical touch, and somebody made a really good point, and I think that some women, and I'm pointing at you because you're a woman, but I'm not directing it at you. But some women would look at that and say, oh, he just wants sex. it's about sex.
It's turned into that.
But that's a natural
holding a
progression.
door open.
Yeah. Well, right here.
Dude, it has. It's like they're hitting on me by holding the door open.
Yeah.
No, I'm serious. That's been a thing where you see someone walking and you open the door for her, but you don't know her. And I've seen and heard of stories where it's been like, oh, he's flirting with me, like, oh, or he's just being a gentleman.
Yeah, I've seen it where it was an insult that you did that. But anyway, so the person, and it's funny because physical touch doesn't necessarily mean sex, but some women are going to look at it like, oh, he just wants to have sex. But the point of what I was saying is that the guy on there made a really good point about men aren't supposed to be physical. We're supposed to be, right? Can't go up to our boys and give hugs and be teary and be emotional and give me a hug and make me feel better. But you know what I mean?
No, I'm laughing.
See, you laughed because
I do it all the time, and I'm female, and I get away with it.
But yes, that's my point. Is men are from a very young age told not to be physical. Be a man. Don't be. And I'm not gonna. Don't be huggy with your boys. You know what I mean? And I don't mean it in a gay way. I mean just in an intimate. 100%. I need this physical touch because I need this validation for my emotional well-being right now. And that was a great point. Mm-hmm. And I think that it is lost on a lot of women and even men that it's intimate physical touch doesn't necessarily have to be sexual.
Right.
But I think that men and women, obviously, we need to have that connection with people to feel like we're men too.
Right. Yeah, no, that's a good point. I think and this goes back to also like innately, what does a man feel comfortable with? Yeah. And I would say the majority of us, even not being told to be huggy, wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
But being told, not being told to do it, leaves the door open to say, oh, if he did hug, he's not being too soft.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's like, I think that... Oh, I just lost my train of thought on that. I was going to go into that.
It'll come back. You got anything on the topic while he's...
I literally just thought I had a good point too. Gosh, dang it. You were...
Huggy, touchy. Men are not supposed to, or...
Yeah.
Well, what I was thinking was, as far as physical touch goes...
Oh, yeah, that's the word. Go on, though.
If you're not getting that from your buddies, right, then you're going to want it from your partner, right? And if that's your love language, like, it doesn't have to be sex, right? It could still be, like, cuddling and snuggling or whatever.
Holding, yeah.
Yeah, just that physical affection. Mm-hmm. My boys are super snugglers, and they don't snuggle with their homies, right? I mean, how old are they? 8 and 10, mm-hmm. right? But they don't like hug their friends, so they are getting that physical touch from somebody they trust, their mother.
Yeah. Right?
And I foresee them growing to be men who need that physical touch, right? Every night, these boys want to come and snuggle. And I'm like, get out of my bed.
So imagine if they weren't getting it from you.
Right.
What that would do to the psyche.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it...
Then it would potentially turn to a perverted form of intimacy.
It could.
That's what I mean. It could potentially.
Yeah, I think that this makes a good point too, because like I was cuddly. Like here's the thing about love languages that is interesting, especially with physical touch. Mm-hmm. I would say I love physical touch when I'm in love. Mm-hmm. Yeah, like physical touch. All the love languages almost seem to apply if you really think about it. It's like all of them are there. Like anything I do with this person is gonna. I love you that much, right? Yeah. Like it becomes like an obsession. But this brought up a point that I was thinking about. I was super cuddly with my mom too, but I am not that way now, not at all. And it wasn't. It just turns out to the point that I just don't. I think also it had to do with like me and my mom. Once I got older, didn't get along really well, and so she'd always want to hug. Her love language for me is like touch and quality time. Like I'm there, she gives me a hug. Like that is all she needs. My love language is like being heard, like if I'm respected and heard, that's huge to me in a relationship.
Yeah.
And that's also because I wasn't heard when I was growing up around certain situations.
I feel that.
So I think it's interesting because you said, I think they might be that way when they get older. And you might be right, because as long as you guys keep a good relationship as they get older, I think they'll have a much easier time loving on you when they're older as well.
Well, I didn't mean me necessarily. I meant like into their relationships.
Well, that's what I mean.
Their
like
marriages.
like even when my mom tries to give me a hug now, it just like it's awkward for me.
Really?
Just because I just haven't I haven't felt respected.
Yeah.
So
well, that
like
makes
there
sense.
was some violation along the way.
Yes, and that's what I more so meant when,
like,
if you guys keep the relationship.
Yeah, like
good.
a lack of trust.
Yes.
Like
yes.
subconsciously,
100%.
and so it's not the same, right? And hopefully, I'm able to maintain this trust that I have with all my kids.
Yeah.
And that will translate into it being a good memory, like a good feeling for them, right?
Right.
And they'll want to get that from their partners.
For sure.
Because they can't always.
And that's part of that feminism.
Yeah.
Because that's that nurturing aspect that every man needs to feel comfortable with in a way that can bleed into other healthy relationships. And that's also part of masculinity.
And I was just going to say, as long as there's not a toxic male that's going to say, don't quit being a pussy.
100%.
Right?
Yep.
So because that does make a lot of sense. And it's funny because when Rajneeta and I started dating, I thought she was super materialistic. And it's not, I looked at it as materialistic, and apparently she's a gift giver. That's her love language. She likes giving and receiving gifts. Yes. But early on, before I understood like love languages, before I actually read the book and got really studied the stuff, I was like, man, she's materialistic. Right? And some people, you look at them like that, you genuinely see these people as materialistic when this is just how they give love.
Yeah. Yeah, love languages are interesting too, because a lot of times we might call something a love language, but we're giving out of an insecurity, or we're doing something out of an insecurity. And so is that really love?
Right.
And so, that's including myself. There's things like I love giving gifts and providing, like if I'm really good at something, a love language of mine is like, I really want to help that person. If they need help in that area, I want to do everything I can to help that person with my knowledge.
Yeah.
Not saying I'm right, but to help them out with the best, like what I can, right? And I just love, I think, doing that. Yeah. And I think, like, in regards to masculinity, men are wired to, like, teaching, coaching in a sense, wanting, like,
fix.
That's like when you get kids. Yeah, fix. So, like, when you have kids, that's why you see a direct correlation with, like, that nurturing aspect. And then you have the dad more so. In today's world, it's still that way. I think the healthiest relationships, there is still a different dichotomy between the dad and the mom with the kids and how discipline is approached. Yeah. There just is. And I think a lot of society is trying to make it equal, like the way a man disciplines, or switch the roles even. And I can't lie, I have never seen a good relationship where the roles are switched, ever. Yeah. There's imbalances that I'm like, dude, this doesn't make sense. Because it's not supposed to be like that. And I know a lot of society will say, like, well, why not? Just because you think it's not? And I'm like, go look at the stats. Yeah. If you guys want to bring it to, like, world, why not? Like, just go look at the divorce rate. Go look at, like, ask marriage counselors.
Well, look at the prison inmates. Look at the population of prison inmates. If you can look at the stats, I don't know what the numbers are, but I know that the numbers are a massive majority of inmates from juvie all the way into prison, single mom households. Yeah. That tells you right there something. Right. But nobody wants to look at that. Right. Well, feminism doesn't want to look at that. Yeah. They want to blame the dads, but yet, well, you were there. Why this now? Right? Yeah. And I know that's going to, like, that's insulting to some people, but those are facts.
It is. I mean, we both have experienced and talked about how, because we've been a man and been in relationships with our kids, it's given the short end of the stick at times. And there's nothing you can do about it. No. I mean, I just watched a video. It was ironic earlier. This guy went to prison for 5 years. When he got out, he had a court case. and they did a DNA test 5 years later, and he wasn't the man, or he wasn't the dad. Oh. And the judge goes to the wife, or to the woman, did you know this? And she was like, yeah. And so, like, that also shows there's no test, like, there was nothing, like, if you get screwed early on, like, really, the courts do not care. You're a number.
Yeah.
You are a number. And I was in jail as well. And I saw people in there who were in there because they didn't pay child support. I don't know the whole story, and I'm not going to think he was a good guy just because I heard his story.
Yeah.
But he did lose everything.
Yeah.
He lost his business. He lost everything because he wasn't paying child support. And I will say this right now, like, masculinity is it's so hard to be a man at times when you have things like the state telling you who you can and cannot be.
Yeah.
And that's when you do have to, like, you know, put your feet to the ground and do what you know to do.
Yeah.
But sometimes, like, you just, as a man in those situations, you just get the short end of the stick. Oh, yeah. And it kills your masculinity at times because then the system tries to take everything away from you and that you've worked for.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, even when I do my best, I'm labeled as a bad man.
Yeah.
Right? And, you know, there's both sides to each story, too. But this is just based on that.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not trying to shame women. I think it's more of a money grab by the states.
Oh, yeah.
Right? That's really what it is. It's not anything against women.
Yeah.
It's really against the states and how they're like, oh, we can make money here.
Right.
So let's get involved in a decision that two people made, masculine and feminine, both decided to have sex. All of a sudden now, let's get involved in that when they never should have gotten. It's no one's business besides the two people that got involved.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you.
Yeah. So.
So, going back to kind of our role as men in society, what do you think? What do you think? Like right now, if you could, and I probably asked you this last time. When you have young men, like you train, you're a trainer.
Yeah.
Correct. What is your main focus on building a man up, building a young man up?
My biggest thing is the way I hold myself.
Yeah.
So how I hold myself, how I speak, even how when directions are need to be making that young person think, not just giving them answers, making them problem solve.
There you go.
Making them not just free answers, not enabling certain actions. You got to make that kid learn. And whether that is a situation that I've thought about with my own kid, you know, of how I want to be represented as a dad with how I didn't have, you know, in times. But when I'm training people specifically or I'm working with other men, and say they are younger, because a lot of times, it's easy. I remember a little kid looking up to someone who's really good at what they do in the gym or in high school and stuff like that. Just holding myself, not losing my emotions, not acting kind of just not how I know I should be acting.
Yeah, so
that's
leading by example.
Yes, 100%. And some men will say that looks different than others, but to me, it's just leading by example to what I know to do. So if they see me get in a tough spot, keeping my composure. Yeah. That does more than people know for young men. Yeah. Because they're like, oh, wow, that didn't even bother him. That's a confidence booster for them growing up and helping them say, like, oh, teaching subconsciously, like stress is created. So if he's not going to create that, I don't need to create that either. Right. And I think not asking enough questions to help stimulate a young mind is a big fault also. They just provide answers or an iPad or something like that. And I think that if you can stimulate, and this is with girls too. This is a young girl too, like stimulating their mind with questions and the same aspects. This is definitely both sides.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But that's what I would say for like how I would masculinity in that sense.
I think the leading by example is a huge thing. I really believe that.
Yeah. Because everything especially I don't know for girls as much. I would think it's the same, but coming from a young boy, like seeing your dad do certain things and like then being able to pick his brain and he makes you think more, that like motivates me even now because I know what it would have done for me that I didn't have. Because I see how it affects young people now that I do have the opportunity for. Right. And then you can reward them when they do it. And as a young man, when we figure something out, it's like, oh my gosh. And that really helps them grow more confident in not wanting the answer. masculinity today is made off of quick fixes and like instant gratification, right?
Well, so. And I was just going to actually go there because I've talked to Mickey about this oftentimes, and you kind of alluded to it earlier, where our role oftentimes is we're directive, we're instructional. Mm-hmm. I also lean towards I'm a fixer. I already am thinking about the solution when you're telling me the problem. Like we could be talking about something and I'm already thinking, okay, I know the answer to this, right? Mm-hmm. Whereas I should just not. Sometimes, right. Sometimes just listen to listen. Yeah. And I know we've had that. Well, and I think that's also how we're designed. That's a natural thing. Yeah. Going back to the masculinity, that's a natural thing. For me, it's very hard. And I am a good listener. I have to be told to listen. I have to be told, I don't want the answer right now. I just want you to hear me.
Yeah. Right? And a lot of times as men, that's all we want. I'm not bringing up my problem to you so you can give me an answer. I'm just literally talking. Yeah. Because I learn best through sometimes talking. Because a lot of the answers I need aren't going to be from people because they're going to be like, well, you know yourself best. You know what you need. And so I'm bad at that too, is it can come off as venting or sometimes. But a lot of times I just need to talk myself to someone and I'll be like, all right. There's the answer. There it is. And they were an ear to hear. And that means so much to men, too. Just having someone there. And I think a strong woman who can ask the right questions is so critical. Because if you can ask the right questions to the man you're with, it shows you truly know him. And that's huge in a good relationship. Yeah. What kind of questions you ask, and in my opinion.
Well, and I think actually the real trick is not even necessarily the question. It's the reflective listening. It's the reflective responses. Yeah, like sure. When you're working with children, it's not about necessarily asking the question. It's about the response, the direct comment response. Because if you ask a question, oftentimes you're going to get an answer, but that's not the solution.
But was it the right question?
Well, what I mean by that is oftentimes you're only going to get the answer, but you're not going to get the story behind the answer. So reflective responses,
how they handle that question.
Yeah. So reflective responses sometimes is more adequate. And I'm not trying to get in counselor mode right here. No, but you know what I mean? 100%. Oftentimes, especially with children. Yeah. If you ask a child a question, you're going to get an answer. Mm-hmm. Right. But the answer isn't necessarily what you were going for. Right. It's a whole conversation, a whole dialogue. That's where reflective. I like responses. That. Yeah. And that's, I think that's men. I think but I agree with you on the right questions. But I also agree that having a good dialogue, just not even questions, just a dialogue. Oh, I see that must have really felt hard, or that must have been really difficult for you. Sometimes the answer comes in your own mind.
Oh, right. That's the same as like when I said I learned through talking. Yeah. But I do think like if. I guess this is the example I meant by like the right questions. Mm-hmm. When I'm going on a date or I'm meeting a girl, I don't necessarily have expectations, so to speak. I have things I like that and are have to's, non-negotiables. That's for sure. But it does show me, and this is just not like when I'm on dates, but it's just people in my life. Questions to me show your maturity in like your spiritual maturity or yourself. Are you asking the question because of how it only applies to you, or are you asking a question in a sense of like the overall situation?
Because of interest
in that sense. And I think there's a lot to be said of what type of questions are asked. Like if someone's going through something hard, for example, and you just ask the obvious question, I'm like,
that's where you're going to get just the answer.
That's where you're going to get just the answer. Yeah. But if you ask a question that shows you thought it reflected on their statement, and then they reflected by showing the question, and then they reflected with the answer, it's a healthy relationship. Absolutely. And that's rare.
Yeah, it is rare.
It's rare.
It is rare.
And it's so fulfilling because you know that person's trusting you and respecting you enough to give you sense of thought.
Well, and listening and hearing 100%. That I think that's one of those things in society is like a lot of people aren't listened, aren't heard.
Don't want to listen either.
They don't want to listen. Yeah. They don't want to listen.
Because it means conviction, or judging.
Yeah. So, or dismissed.
and it's usually none of those. Like, right. I mean, most people don't like Andrew Tate. I love Andrew Tate. I think he's a dope dude.
Yeah,
because he says it how it is, and I followed a lot of the women in his life too. God, he treats them amazing. Like, I mean, there are though certain things he might have said, but we're not all perfect. But I will say this, that like, I am a very, very direct. Like, I really don't beat around the bush a lot to the people that mean the most to me. I don't want soft, like, advice. I don't want, like, oh, like, I want, get your shit together. Yeah. like, because we only have time.
Yeah.
And I don't have time.
Very little amount of it.
To not have people in my corner holding me to a high standard. And that's, I think, a part of masculinity. Yeah. Part of masculinity is get shit done and get it done fast. Yeah. And not too fast to where it's like you do a bad job, but be what's the word?
Efficient?
Well, it's don't be busy all the time, but be productive all the time. Yeah. You know?
Well, and I think we live in a society, again, going back to what we were talking about, I think we live in a society where people assume to tell you what they think you want to hear rather than what you really need to hear.
100%.
And I think that's a big problem.
100%. And the government pays you if you want to be lazy.
Right.
So that's a killer of masculinity and feminism at itself too. Yeah. You know, I mean, if you're going to pay someone to do something, they're most likely going to continue to do it. Yeah. And, you know, in order to be a true man, you got to have done a lot of things you don't want to do. That's just facts. Yeah. And you can't have people in your corner being too nice to you. Right. You got to have enough haters, and you got to have enough people in your corners. Otherwise, you're just missing out. Truly. That's my raw opinion of masculinity.
Well, you know? I think that if everybody loves you, then you're probably doing something wrong.
Of course. And that's not love anyways.
It's not love.
It's like, oh, wow, he's got the muscles I want on social media, and I don't support my family, but I'm going to... Yeah. If he randomly dies and I've never met him, I'm going to put out, this guy did so much for my life on social media. Right? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Right. That's the world we live in.
It is. Well, it's funny because another one of our conversations that we had driving over here, we had a lot of conversations in a very short period of time.
I was worried we were going to go over like everything in like 5 minutes.
Right. Yeah. Well, so... And I think I've talked to you about this, Mickey. We had this, I think it's a funny conversation where we talked about, I personally believe in this day and age, this society right now, that men are the naturally attractive species.
That's where we just had this conversation the other day.
This is an interesting topic.
It is.
So you haven't presented this, or you did?
No, Trevor? We talked about this. Okay. We talked about, you and I have talked about this.
Briefly, yeah.
Yes, briefly. Yeah. Now, would you agree with that or not? In today's society, especially American society, naturally attractive people, in my opinion, no homo. This is just
and not sexist.
And not sexist. Not sexist. This is. I think this is true. Men are the naturally attractive, and I'm not saying I'm attractive. That's debatable.
You an easy 8.5. You an easy 8.5 on a bad day.
Yes, I agree with you. But that's in my
11 in my books. 11 in my books. Right? You know what I'm saying?
So, but am I wrong? Because if you take women today, and I'm not trying to be demeaning, I'm not trying to be rude. I'm saying natural beauty. A lot of women in today's society, especially American society, have to wear fake hair, fake lashes, makeup, fake lips, fake lenses on their eyes, all that stuff. And I'm not saying they look great, fine. I'm not necessarily into that. Rajnita wears makeup. I love her. She can wear makeup. She looks more beautiful to me, natural. But I think in today's society that men are the naturally attractive species. He doesn't have anything on, and look how good he looks. He's single, ladies.
I do a skincare routine, though.
Well, but that's just exfoliation.
Hey, but that was something was frowned upon about masculinity. I won't cut you off, but most masculinity is like, don't do a skincare routine. I'm not a bitch.
That's so dumb.
But that's what I'm saying. That's what we've been talking about.
That's what's wrong with society.
That's what killing it, because like I can't do a skincare routine because it's feminine.
Yeah, right.
Not feminine. I just want to have nice skin, dog.
Right? Seriously. But do you think I'm wrong or right?
I think you are correct.
Okay. Delve into that.
Yeah, I want to hear Mickey talk. She's been sitting here not talking. I feel bad.
No, I'm accustomed to not talking.
Great listener. I'll take notes.
What's the question? Men more attractive than
naturally, women? Like in today's age.
So I think what came up the other day is I was like, hey, do you think this person's a catfish? And he's like, what's a catfish? I was like, it's somebody that like they'll post these pictures that like you don't recognize them if you saw them in person.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, because they're so filtered.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, yeah. And that's how we came onto this conversation. Yep. That's how he was like, I think that men are the more attractive of the species or whatever.
Species.
Yeah.
I'm not sure he said species. I don't remember. But
he did today. That's funny.
I mean, I agree, but I think it's also unfair in that the beauty standards we put on women.
Yes.
Right?
But who puts those standards on women?
I don't know.
Women.
See, we talked about this, not men.
Women.
Not men.
I've heard women say we did it to ourselves.
Yeah.
And I only say that because I heard this in a podcast by women with men. Is like the men were like, we never said to start putting makeup on. We never said to start. But society has created this thing like, you know, because there's been, anytime society sees an insecurity in women, fix it. How can we fix it? Quick fix. Nose, whatever, nose job, lips, whatever.
Boobs.
And now the reason why men on his statement might seem the more attractive is because now it's rarer to find. Our standards are, if women never wore makeup like they have now, we would never have had this new standard to look at. So we would have, women it wouldn't be like this unequal thing.
Yeah.
So you're saying,
Yeah.
I'm in the same boat with Mike that I think women who barely wear any makeup are gorgeous. I can't do. I know it's an art. I follow girls that like literally do makeup. I'm not bashing that. It's just not my type, my style. I can't do a ton of makeup. I just don't. It's not my thing, right? And I just love that natural aspect too. And I think this is very common with a lot of men. And I know a lot of men that maybe would just say, I don't know. I can't do. If you look completely different without makeup,
That's
I
what I
can't
mean.
do it.
It's like
that's the thing. You're totally
it's false
unrecognizable.
advertisement. Yeah.
So I think that's the biggest thing men have a problem with is it's like, I want to date, but every girl I just swiped on was wearing, I don't know if she really looks like that.
Well, and it could have been a filter. It could have been whatever.
Dude, yeah.
You never know.
Well, I think what's shitty about that is that if women are doing it to ourselves, but it's also like causing this issue of I'm never good enough.
Yeah.
Right. I can't look like that. Right. I have to do X, Y, and Z so that I am at least presentable. Like I even see it with my 12-year-old daughter. Right. She wears fucking glasses. She doesn't need them. And like she had to go to school yesterday without them, and she was so upset. She's like, I just look so much cuter with these glasses on. And I was like, I look cuter with the glasses on too, Ruby, but you don't see me wearing them.
Right.
That's interesting.
But see, men, that's where masculinity would come in and be like, no, you don't.
Yeah.
Because it's like, and I wouldn't say it that dry to a woman. Like I wouldn't say it like so dead, but I would try to make it like so she feels good that like you're beautiful. I chose you, or if you're my friend, like you are beautiful. I could care less what you put on, and I'm not the type of friend where glasses would ever make me think. I'd be like, oh, those are nice glasses. They look good on you.
Yeah. But
they don't make you look better.
Right.
Right, and then that's the mindset that society is teaching people.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, trying to tell her, she's like, you only ever say I look really pretty when I have makeup on. I was like, Ruby.
But that's a pattern. That's a pattern. You're not doing it because, first of all, it's an art. I will say this. Like
she's
you could
super
put
talented.
It is an art,
right?
Yeah.
And so I respect that, right?
Yeah.
And but to that thing is, she didn't learn to think that way through you. Like she didn't learn to think, oh, I'm prettier because only when you say that.
Yeah.
I learned that because that's what everybody's doing around me on social media.
Yeah.
And that is also where, you know, that comes like has to be kind of killed, you know, that mindset, you know, and like.
Well, and I've had the conversation with my girls and Rajneeta about makeup because I genuinely want to understand why the need for makeup.
Yeah.
And you know, they're always saying, "Oh, I don't do it. I do it to enhance my beauty, enhance whatever." And it's like, why the need to enhance your beauty though? You're beautiful without it. So I truly don't understand. That's one thing I don't get that. But it's the same thing. I guess I can relate in the sense that I don't like the way I look without my beard.
They don't want to say flaws. Well, they're going to say enhance.
Yeah.
But that is, I think, the root of a lot of it is women. We're insecure. I'm insecure about a lot of things, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Women are insecure on their own things. And instead of us calling them flaws or women calling it flaws, they cover it with makeup. They don't like this aspect or they don't like this aspect, so they can cover it with makeup. Yeah. That's just reality.
Yeah.
I don't think any woman who wears a ton of makeup all the time, it'd be very rare to meet one that says, no, I feel comfortable in my own skin without makeup.
Right.
I'm sure maybe there's some out there, but I have yet to really meet one. If you're putting a ton of makeup on all the time, that means you only feel prettiest when you are wearing a ton of makeup.
Right.
And that's sad.
Problem. That is sad.
And I could be wrong. Any woman watching this, any woman watching this podcast, if you think I'm wrong and you say you feel prettier without makeup, well, then I better see a lot of pictures with you without makeup on.
Yeah. And I guess that, because like I said, I like having a beard.
Yeah.
I like wearing a beard. If I didn't have a beard, I would feel
But we don't think I like my beard too. But I don't think I need to cover anything up because of it. It's just something I like.
Yeah.
Now, this is where the women could be like, well, that's why I don't think anything on my face is bad, but I do just like how I look with makeup on.
Yeah.
And that is what I'm getting at. That could be a true reason of why they just like wearing makeup.
Yeah. And I'm not saying every woman is uglier than every man. I'm saying, but there are. Have you ever seen some of those TikToks where you see these people through the makeup?
Or the people, they do the tutorial with makeup. And I'm like, no offense, but you were... I'm not going to say you're ugly. Whatever. She was ugly. And not as attractive. Whatever. Yeah. If you want to hate on me for saying whatever. Not everybody's good looking. She wasn't attractive, but then she turned into a dime with like the makeup on.
Yeah.
And like...
But that's my point right there. That's my point right there.
Yeah.
And that's where it's like, because men just walk around natural, most men.
Yeah.
I mean, there's this day and age, a lot of men wear makeup now. But it's crazy to me though. It really is crazy. But I think that we also have the standard that women have. I think that we also have that where we have to have this appearance to be attractive. Like, and I talked to you about this too. I have to be
6'1" maybe to even like get through the door with a chance with someone. I feel the same way on that. Or, I personally, I do believe in like, you only open the door to a feminine woman that you want if you're at that level. So I have to be fit. Yeah. There's no shot I'm going to attract the woman I want if I'm not fit. Right. And that's just part of the game. I'm cool with that. Like, I'm cool with there being, I'm cool with a woman also wanting me to be wealthy. Yeah. I'm cool with that. Because I do think that it shows a lot. And by wealthy, I don't mean rich. I mean wealthy mentally, spiritually, and money in my bank account. Right? Like, I'm cool with a woman having that kind of as a standard to an extent, but I'm not cool with... Because it's so hard. Because
today then that takes kind of the character out. I think that's where taking the character.
But you build a lot of character by getting wealthy.
Well, no, I get that.
You know what I mean?
I get that. I'm a grinder. Believe me, I understand the work ethic. I just think that it's a sad state of being when you have to be. You have to have money for me to even give you a shot. Well,
here's the thing. I'm not necessarly mad about that.
No, okay.
And you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I think that's because, Mike, if you didn't have what you do now, you would have no money. And why would a woman who doesn't know you want to get interested with you if you have nothing to show on the table?
Yeah. And I see that.
You know what I mean?
I do
and I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
I just don't think it should be like, oh, if you go broke while you're with her, she leaves you. That's what happens a lot.
Yeah.
So you know, there's a difference between like, oh, wow, he's got what I want and shows. Because if you're 40, 30, 50 years old and you got nothing to show.
Yeah.
Why would anybody take the risk of even being with you? Now, if you're 17 years old, that's different. 22, early 20s, that's different. But if you meet someone and you're talking about a story and you don't have money, you lost your business, and you meet a girl and you guys get together and she falls in love with you while you're broke but trusts your dream also. Yeah. That's also a situation. Yeah. But I'm not necessarily mad for... It's just, you got to be careful. Like, women and men have to be careful of, like... it being their idol in that person. Yeah, like if this person's wealthy, am I falling in love with the character that was created because of the wealth, or am I only falling in love with the wealth?
The wealth, yeah.
You have to make sure, okay, this is wealth, he's got it. Now also let's check the character. Or I've checked the character, cool, he has wealth. I like that.
Yeah.
If you can find the character first, that's a benefit. But sometimes the only thing you see is the wealth. Now let's check the character. Oh, it matches, cool. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think so. Did you?
Yeah, I think it's poopy. I mean, if a woman is like checking to see if you're wealthy before she gets to know your character.
No, that's not what I mean. I'm just saying if it's there, like if it's a wealth is a part, like character and wealth both need to be on the table.
Yeah.
And say like.
But how could you define that though? How could you separate that? How could you truly know that a woman actually cared about you, for your character, if wealth was already on the table?
Well, think about wealth. Wealth doesn't just mean money. Wealth is character.
Yeah.
Wealth is character.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying wealth is just money.
Like the financial.
I'm saying wealth is like, does this guy have his shit together?
Okay.
And he's also doing well.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
And I guess I did split them up. I split up character and wealth. But I guess more so what I'm saying is you can't know the character right away fully. Right. You can get a sense of the character with the wealth that is shown.
Yeah.
And by wealth, I mean, like I said, spiritual, stuff like that.
I think redefining it in that sense makes sense.
Yeah, not just like, does he have $1 million in the bank account or a Bugatti sitting outside, you know?
See, that's where you get this idea that, okay, she's only wanting me for that.
Right. And so, that's good that you said it, that you made me clarify, because that's what I meant. So
okay, that makes more sense.
Yeah.
That I can.
Not like, oh, well, he doesn't have money bags, so I'm not going to even open the door for him.
Because you could have, maybe you did lose your business, but who knows why you lost your business. It doesn't mean that you have a shitty character.
Right. Or that you won't rebuild bigger.
Right. You could have an amazing character, and like if she sees that what you're calling wealth within you, then she would have the confidence and trust that you could build that.
Perfect example.
Build back up to that.
Yeah, that's exactly what I mean.
Well, and it does go back to our original discussion on masculinity, because you and I both know that from our perspective, we like to be, in a sense, a provider.
And I want nice things.
Yeah.
That's just me. Not every man wants necessarily the same nice things I want.
Yeah.
But like I was saying earlier, is like when I don't mind, or I don't mind if she wants me to want nice things. Mm-hmm. That's just a similar interest, and that's not a bad thing.
No.
Do I think it should be a deal breaker? Like if no, but I do think you could run into, depending on how the communication is, could cause some challenging conversations.
Yeah.
Like if you really want to buy nice cars, or you have a passion for cars, and then she thinks that's stupid. That's just going to come down to loving him enough to know he loves nice cars, right? And that's a passion of his. So just depends, right? There's so many factors when you're,
Yeah.
Because masculinity doesn't necessarily mean nice cars, but we like nice cars,
Yeah.
Simple things or whatever.
The simple things. So Mickey and I are both married. She's married. I'm married. What do you think from a female perspective is important for you in masculinity, bringing to the table?
Mm-hmm. That's a good question.
I think the wealth and the way that Trevor described it is really important. That
might be it.
It's a pretty big, like,
right,
umbrella. Thank you. I was gonna say bowl, but it's not a bowl. But the emotional maturity to be a good communicator, be able to recognize things that are needed and necessary, being willing to like provide the stability and support that like a family needs. Mm-hmm. And by family, I don't even necessarily mean kids, just like you and your husband as a unit, right? The partnership. And what's hard about that is that not everybody has that like emotional, mental wealth at a young age, mm-hmm. right? And so you have to grow into it. And so when you're starting out and you're like 17 and you meet the girl of your dreams, and by the time you're 30, you're way different.
Yes.
You're a completely different person, really, between 17 and 30. Yeah. Just as an example.
And it's impossible not to be, in a sense, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And so that's where it's hard from like a young age to try to build that and grow together. But you have to grow together.
Were you 17 when you met him?
Today's actually our 17th anniversary.
Oh my gosh, that's so awesome. Congratulations.
Happy anniversary, and you're on the podcast for it, not out.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here, Mickey.
Yeah. No, we were 16 when we met.
Okay. Same.
Yeah, same. It's the same. But the challenges that come with that, but you have to be good communicators, but also going back with the femininity and the masculinity, broken households, the shit trauma childhood that you guys have had, my husband has had, everybody's had, I've had, right? And then because of like broken homes and the push for feminism, which I think is like a result of that, and then just trying to heal and grow through that, but not being given like the good base as a kid to see what's important, right?
Yeah.
Because you come from a broken, and when I say you, I don't mean you necessarily,
right, no.
But you come from a broken home and you don't know how to function as a partner. And, see, I'm fucking crying. I always cry.
And I always forget to put the Kleenex in here.
He does. But, yeah, so I would say, I forgot what the question even was.
No, keep going though. It's good.
That's probably all I have.
Yeah, that's good.
You have to be able to grow together.
Yeah, and I think you said what's really tough is when you are in love with someone. My first love was when I was 16, and I still to this day think that yes, it was a young love, but there was a saying, there was a quote, not quote, I don't know, there's like a 3-page saying. It said your first love is like that first amazing love, your second love is painful, and your third love is like that one forever love. Yeah. And I do agree with that for the most part. Some people never have that second love because they marry the love of their life at a young age. But I think what's so hard about that is like there's no true masculinity at 17, and there's no true feminism at 16 or 17 in the sense of like you are masculine and feminine to the extent of your experiences, in my opinion. And at that age, it is so hard unless you had some crazy upbringing up until 17 with no dad and like had to be the dad and provide, like that will shape you faster.
Yeah.
But when you get in a relationship that young, and then you're 25, you realize you can only hope that your same reasons you got together, the same beliefs of why you got together are there. Because I've seen so many people change their beliefs, their moral standards, their core values. Yeah. So if you get that, that's truly a miracle. If you literally met at 16 and you're married till this day, that's, in my opinion, the definition of a miracle and a blessing, because you were able to keep those core values together and want that with that person. Like that's the other thing. You wanted to stay, you loved it so much, you chose that with that person for that many years versus letting the trials and tribulations at such a young age get to you. I think that's something really to be super proud of.
Yeah, absolutely. Good job.
Because that is not easy. Yeah. That is not easy. My first love doesn't even think the same way as me at all. And a lot of pain did that though.
Yeah. My first love was when I was in second grade. My second was in 12. When I was 12.
First kiss, I think, was in church too when I was like 6. Yeah. She got mad at me the next day, and then she said, "I'm not marrying you." Yeah.
Oh man.
She said, "I'm not marrying you anymore," and I was like, "Mom, Nicole said she's not marrying."
I think one of the keys, and I say this a lot, and I've had this conversation about longevity, is a lot of people use compromise, and I say fuck compromise. I don't believe in compromise. Right. I believe in collaboration.
Yeah.
You know, you can't really compromise. Good. You can't compromise one of your core values because you're giving up something that is important to you, sacrificing something for somebody else. I think collaboration is what the trick is. Yeah. Making you and that person work.
Right.
That's where it comes
Compromise means, hey, I like this about you, but come over here.
Yeah.
And that's just a killer. That's just a killer.
It is.
Like you'll just kill. And you don't when you compromise, you don't let masculinity or feminism shine. No. You have to collaborate, because that's when you both can really live in that purpose you're called to be. Like when we first started the conversation, when you both can live in a feminine purpose and a masculine purpose, and you collaborate, it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Should we stop on that, or do you have some? You have another.
I mean, we've talked so much. I could, we could. You
have a diamond. Forever. You have another diamond in there. That was pretty good.
No. I think we could end on that one. That one's
okay. Good. Awesome. Thank you.
I like that she said poopy because I was like, oh no, because it's good. Sometimes I do say things that like aren't worded. They're worded together and can be interpreted.
Yeah.
So I always love when people are like, they actually ask instead of being like, oh, he thinks this way.
Yeah.
But it's hard when you hear it a certain way and you don't know the person. So that was good. I like that.
Well, and
because it was now I'm not a piece of shit, right? Because she's like, Trevor only thinks the girls like him if he's got money bags.
Well, and that's the sad reality of oftentimes our brains are ahead of our whatever.
We haven't taken the time to.
Yes, and that goes in with the texting and everything, social media, because you can send these things. It's like. That's not what that was. So
well, I'm a thinker, so like I take things in.
I can see you thinking. And I'm like here, and I'm like, oh. Those wheels are spinning. Those wheels are spinning. I love it though. I love it because I know you're gonna ask. That's a good quality in a woman. Like literally, if I was talking to a woman and I can just see her absorbing, you're gaining points with me.
Right.
Like huge.
Yeah.
Because I know you like to take things deeper and you don't take them at surface value. Mm-hmm. So if I can see you thinking and we're in a relationship, I love that. I'm like, think more. I like this. Yeah. It's a turn on. I'm like, yeah, that's good.
What's your Christian Mingles handle?
Christian Mingles handle. Trevor loves Jesus.
Wait, Devin's got that same one. Yeah.
I'll be fishing for my friends, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Be helping them out.
Oh, cool. Awesome. Thank you. Love having you. It'll happen again.
Hey, man, this has been an absolute pleasure. Awesome. I'm glad you were able to join.
Yes, I feel like we rescheduled it like 3 times.
We did.
I think I was the first one, and then the kids got sick.
Yeah.
So I felt like, okay, now we're even.
We'll have it again. Thanks, brother.
Yeah, absolutely.